Okay, so the timeline is probably the biggest part of your program. For me, it's this big chunk of stuff here. What this lets me do is look at all my content. Okay, so it might be audio stuff, it might be MIDI stuff. If I go down to the bottom, I think I have MIDI stuff. Maybe I don't have any MIDI in this session. Here's some. Nope. There. That's a MIDI track. Those little dots, that means you're looking at MIDI information, and these waveforms tell us we're looking at audio information. So you might have MIDI stuff, you might have audio stuff, and the key thing here is that you can move it around. Okay, so I've got this that's happening here, maybe I want to put it there. Okay, I can move it around. You know, maybe I just want to copy this part and put it over there. I can do that. I can adjust things and move it around within the timeline. Always in a timeline, time flows from left to right. So if I play this, you'll see what we call the playhead kind of moving across the screen. So there's my playhead. And everything sounds when it gets to the playhead. Now we also here have tracks. Okay, each one of these horizontal lines, groups of things, is called a track. So each track has its own settings that we can control when we talk about the mixer. But you can think of this as analogous to a musical score. That's really what it's designed to be like, right? In a score, we have each instrument has its own line, and then we read from left to right. So this works exactly the same. Every instrument has its own line, and we read from left to right, or in this case, the computer reads from left to right. Generally, we can make things bigger or smaller if we want to really get in there and see what's going on, or we can tuck it away and make it nice and small. You can usually look at your timeline either in terms of bars and beats, which in Ableton is at the top. So if I zoom in here, you can see 25 means bar 25. 25.2 means bar 25 beat 2. 25.3 means beat 3. 25.4 means 25 beat 4. And then we get to 26. Stuff in between, 25.4.3 means bar 25 beat 4 third 16th note is what that means. And that timing mechanism works a little bit different in each of the programs. They might do this a little similar. You might also just see time in minutes and seconds. In live, we have minutes and seconds at the bottom. So here we're at 49 seconds, 49 and a half seconds, 50 seconds. You will also, in a lot of timelines, be restricted to working on a grid. So you can see here these little blocks. If I try to move this over, it's going to make me land on those blocks. Okay? I can easily turn that off by control clicking and just say off. And now I can move this anywhere and I'm not restricted to the blocks. But we generally like to be on some kind of a grid so that we know what's going on. But that's how the timeline works. We have content, we can move it around, we can cut, copy, paste. I'll talk more about how to do that in a second when we talk about common key commands. And we can just work on our arrangement. That's where the majority of your work is going to be really in the timeline, at least when you're producing music. When you're mixing music, you're going to mostly be in the mixer section. So let's go on and talk about the mixer now.